So hello! On this channel we talk about independent spirituality and folk magic for free spirits. My name is Aster, and in today's video we are going to take a look at something very important, which is like tips for not being afraid of spirits anymore. If you are on this channel, chances are that you are a witchcraft practitioner yourself, and for I would say 90% of practitioners, spirit contact, spirit work, spirit connection is a big part of our practices. There are practitioners who connect with plant spirits or who conduct things otherwise in a way that they don't have contact with spirits of the dead, ancestors, deities, and other beings. Yes, that is possible, that exists, but most of people, most of us, they will be in contact with spirits through their practice. It is my case, but at the beginning I had my struggles, I had my difficulties because I was afraid of spirits. So today I am going to share with you what I did to overcome that, what has worked for me, because maybe it could work for you as well. Wait a minute. Before we start, let's take a minute to hear a word from today's sponsor, which is myself. Did you know that I have opened a store? Yeah, that's right. Over there you can find all my ebooks that contain some juicy bits of occult knowledge that I share, and you don't want to miss out on that. And also private readings that combine tarot and Lenormand cards, as you already know them, with some extra spice of Afro-Brazilian knowledge. But the best part is that the products on the store start at only $3. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't know, I'm also on Patreon. And over there I share extra exclusive content like spell tutorials, behind the scenes of my life, exclusive Patreon videos, unfiltered book reviews, weekly readings, and much more for only 1 cup of coffee per month. So if you like what I do on the internet and would like to support my work somehow, check out the links in the description to take a look at everything that I offer. Now, with that being said, let's get back to the video. So, I think that a very good question to ask ourselves from the get-go is why exactly we are afraid of spirits. Why does that make us afraid? Why? Well, several things that we do as human beings, as a society, they are actually taught to us. It's not stuff that comes with us inherently, but rather a product of culture, of habits, of collective consciousness, so on and so forth. But culture plays a big role on the things that we find beautiful, the things that we find scary, the things that we find acceptable or not. Culture is a major thing when it comes to that, and our modern culture teaches us to be afraid of the unknown in general. And it goes even beyond spirituality in itself. Anything that a person doesn't understand or doesn't know, well, they're afraid of it. And when it comes to spirituality, that becomes even more enhanced for people to be scared by stuff that they don't comprehend. And spirits, well, they are beyond the veil. They are things that we cannot touch, we cannot see per se. I mean, that can be practiced and unlocked, but at the base, let's say, we can't really grasp the concept of their existence. It's a little bit beyond our understanding, and it's like we occupy the same spaces but in different dimensions. I compare it a little bit with the upside down from Stranger Things. We are at the same place kinda, but on different sides of the veil, if that makes sense. The spirits, they are in the upside down and we are here as a comparison, let's put it that way. And when you are alone and you feel a presence, you feel goosebumps, you feel that you're being watched, you feel that there's something in the room with you, or you hear something, or you sense something, because that's something you cannot see, you cannot, like in the cognitive brain, you cannot understand what that is. Automatically you become afraid, and because because we are taught to be afraid of spirits, of the supernatural, and so on and so forth, that fear is very much enhanced. I mean, if we take a look at horror movies, they basically teach us to be scared of spirits. Spirits, they're just minding their business for the most part. Not all of them. There are some pranksters, there are obsessors, as we call them in Brazil, and low vibration spirits, so people who pass away and get lost and they don't really understand what's going on. A very interesting way of depicting spirits and their interactions with humans, living humans, is the movie The Others, if I'm not mistaken, with Nicole Kidman. That movie, if you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it. It is very interesting, and yeah, there are some scary parts and everything, but why? Because it's the unknown, it's the unseen, it's things that go beyond our understanding. So if you want to watch a little bit of a scary movie that doesn't bring a terrible and horrifying interpretation of what spiritual, like the spiritual side of things is, The Others is a very good one. Also The Crow, I love that movie, and it brings the spiritual in such an interesting way and kind of accurate. I really like it. There's a little bit of accuracy to that movie. I really like it. So those are two movies that I recommend you watch if you want a little bit of a more positive depiction of spirits and spirituality in general, The Others and The Crow. But in general, horror movies, they are exaggerated, and to a point that it becomes even funny. Nowadays, as a whole, I kind of avoid horror movies. I'm gonna tell you why, but when I watch them, for the most part, I find them funny because it's so unrealistic and exaggerated. But sometimes there are certain movies that really hit the mark, and they bring things in the story that could actually happen. That's the case, for example, with Smile. I've seen Smile 2, and that thing that happens to that singer girl, well, yeah, spiritually speaking, that's accurate, because spirits, they mess up with your mind. That's where they grab you. They give you hallucinations. So yeah, that movie hit me hard because that could happen. And yeah, so it is kind of important to avoid any kind of artistic expression of spirits that could cause you to be afraid, okay? If you find horror movies funny, like I do for the most part, it's not gonna harm your practice, but you need to distance yourself from anything that portrays spirits and spirituality as something negative and scary. So we're gonna start there, okay? The horror movies, they kind of indoctrinate us to be scared of spirits. Like, this is an absolute truth that spirits are evil and they are out there to get you. Not necessarily. Of course, that not everything that is beyond the veil is love and light and wants your best interest, and has your best interest at heart. I've really messed up that phrase, but anyway. Yeah, there are some nasty things in this spiritual realm and you don't want to go near them. But I mean, I've been practicing for years and I've never had major issues, you know? I've made some mistakes, but anyway, you're not gonna attract some kind of demon, all right? If that's your concern, things are going to be fine, all right? Those types of entities, they need specific rituals, and they're just out there minding their business. They're not gonna be bothered by your existence and you lighting a candle in your room, okay? So relax. Another question that I think is an interesting one to ask ourselves when it comes to spirit work is why to engage with spirits? Why to work with spirits? Why to go through that path? Well, if you are here on this video, chances are that you are interested in that path and maybe you struggle to have a little bit more confidence and less fear. So why to engage with spirit work? Well, we are spirits as well, going through a human experience. And as incarnated humans, we still have spiritual power, of course, but we have a body and we are tied to the material realm during our lifetime. The spirits who are beyond the veil, they don't have that limitation, which means that they can go around, they can do things that we cannot for the the moment because we have a physical body. The spirits, like local spirits, they know the land, they know places, they know where to get a certain herb, they know what that herb can do, they know how you can use it, they know spells, they know little things, they know recipes, and they can teach you all of that and much more. While you are on this side of the veil and you can help them with offerings, energy, and other things, them on the other side of the veil, they can help you as well, getting information for you, influencing other people's minds, and many other things. So it is a very beneficial exchange between the living and the dead. You can learn a lot through spirits, and it is a fascinating experience in my opinion. By the way, the gateway to get to spirits is meditation, if you're wondering, and I do have a video about meditation for witches here on the channel. I'm gonna link it up in the cards and down in the description in case you haven't seen it already. So working with spirits is not only useful, but it is also something very interesting as an experience. Personally, I love to do it, and this is why I think spirit work has a lot to offer and a lot to add to a person's practice. But when you are afraid of spirits, how could that impact your practice negatively? So let's say that you want to do spirit work, but you are afraid. Like, how can you have a cat if you are afraid of cats? You're not gonna. So you need to overcome that feeling of fear. And if you are afraid and you start doing things afraid and you light your candles feeling afraid of what's going to happen, you will attract the very spirits that you don't want to come anywhere near you, because negative entities, they feed off of fear. They can sense it, they enjoy it, and it is through the fear that you're feeling that they can dominate you. So feeling afraid is the last thing you should be feeling if you want to engage in spirit work. It's gonna definitely mess up everything for your practice if you come to it afraid. So we need to overcome that feeling before you actually start doing things. So it starts in your mind, it starts with some new indoctrination and looking at spirits and spirituality under a positive light instead of a negative one that many of the horror movies bring to us. I'm not telling you to stop watching horror movies altogether, because many of us like them. Me, for example, I like horror movies, I always have, and I didn't stop watching them, but we need to be more mindful about the content that we are consuming, how exaggerated and unrealistic it is, and not take it seriously. Are you able to do that while watching a horror movie? Because horror movies, they can make us, even after you start your practice and everything, if you watch certain things, they can install the fear again. So you need to choose mindfully, you know, the contents that you are going to consume related to spirits. So first thing that I recommend you do in order to start like switching up those engines in your brain is to research, and I do have some book recommendations over here for you. First one that is very easy to read, very comprehensive, I really like this book, is Talking to Spirits, a Modern Medium's Practical Advice for Spirit Communication by Sterling Moon. This book is very comprehensive. It talks to you like at like an equal ground, if that makes sense. There's a lot of information in here. I really enjoyed this text, and yeah, it's very useful for people who are starting out. Another book that I recommend is Spirit Work by Syrian Shadow. I do have a book review about this. It's going to be linked up here and down in the description. This is, I would say, a basic spirit work book. If you don't have a lot of practice, I would recommend this one and this one. Okay, they are a great starting point. And there's also, of course, Consorting with Spirits, Your Guide to Working with Invisible Allies by Jason Miller. This is one of my favorites. I had such a good time with this book. It is also going to be linked. I have a review that is going to be linked up in the cards and down in the description. I really like this book, but it is a little more advanced. I wouldn't recommend this to be the first book on spirit work that you pick up. Start with those two, okay? And then you come to this one, but it is marvelous. so rich with information and experiences from the author. I love this book. Another one that can be interesting, I have to admit that I haven't read it yet, but I know it is useful for that purpose, is Walking the Twilight Path, a Gothic book of the dead by Michelle Bellinger. I mean, the title, the description, yeah, that's right up our alley when we are talking spirit work. So this is like my TBR. But I wanted to mention this book either way because it talks precisely about cemeteries and spirits of the dead. So I had to include it here. Last but not least, something very important when we are doing anything spiritual, protection. So we have here Protection and Reversal Magic, a Witch's Defense Manual by Jason Miller. Very informative book. And yeah, you need to protect. You need to protect if you want to, peek beyond the veil. You need to be protected in order to do that. I do have a video about magical spiritual protection. I'm also gonna link it up here and down in the description because you cannot, spiritual protection is like putting on your seatbelt when you are going to drive, or it's like putting on a helmet when you are going to ride a bike or a motorcycle. You don't expect any accidents to happen. You know how to drive and everything, but in case something comes up, you are protected. That's spiritual protection as well. So I would recommend you start with those books, getting familiar with how exactly things work from people that have a lot of experience, and start with the books. Once you are done with them, you should be ready to start. The best place to start spirit work is through ancestor work. I already have videos about that on the channel. Whole guides about how to do that. Also, they are going to be linked up here and down in the description in case you haven't seen them. So once you have gathered all the information from the books I have just recommended, you've learned how to protect, you are ready to start. So what has worked for me personally to not be afraid of spirits anymore was to simply rip off the band-aid already. Just grab your candle, grab your glass of water, a piece of bread, and start. The minute that you start engaging with the spirit world, with spirits and all, and you see that nothing major happens, like no evil entity has invaded your house and possessed your sister or something, when you start and you see that nothing evil, terrible, mortifying happened, you automatically will become more secure in what you're doing and things will flow naturally. At least for me, that was what helped. That was what worked. When I started doing it, actually practicing it, and I saw that everything was fine. No curses were unleashed upon me. There was no demon in my kitchen or whatever. I felt safe about continuing, and that's what I recommend you do. Once you feel that you have gathered enough information through books, through the videos that I am recommending here, and you feel ready to start, just go for it. Once you start actually doing things and practicing and seeing the results that you get out of it, you will feel at peace, you will feel calm, and spirits all of a sudden, they're not gonna be that scary to you anymore. And luckily, I have that thing with myself that I am able to just throw myself into it and see what happens. And most of the time it is very rewarding because once you do it and you get something out of it, which is not scary after all, you feel, that's actually cool. So it's not as complicated as it might seem. It just takes a little bit of educating yourself and a tiny bit of courage. But a witch should never be afraid because she should know that wherever she is, she's the most dangerous thing in there. So don't be afraid of anything. You are the badass in the room. Remember, practice makes perfect. So let's get witching. Don't be afraid. Go get them. Thank you for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye-bye.